Hello everybody, Dr. Carmen Bryant, Psychological Health Consultants and Services, and my program Redefining Yourself, a program that was developed for women that are thinking of leaving, have left, or needing more information, and are recovering from domestic violence, especially narcissist abuse. So this is focused around narcissist abuse and narcissist abuse recovery. Though the program is developed for women, men go through the exact same thing. And there are videos that also, and I always try to implement when I'm teaching, to acknowledge male and females. But my focus is on females that are coming out of relationships or in relationship with men. But there are also very good videos out there. One is by Mr. Quinn Holiday, which is Associate Direct. He's a male survivor of narcissistic abuse. You also have Ms. Angie Atkinson, who's also a survivor of domestic violence. You have Melanie Tonya Evans, survivor of domestic violence, narcissist abuse. Each one of them are narcissist abuse survivors. You also have Sarah Speaks, also a survivor of narcissist abuse, and myself, who is also a narcissist abuse survivor. I also would like to say to Ms. Lisa, thank you so much for your questions. I have written down one of the two questions she asked. One question was, what is narc abuse by proxy? And I'm going to research that, and I'm going to make a video on that. The other question that she asked let me find the question. I guess I can kind of break it down to a simple, but the question really is it possible for a person to recover from narcissist abuse? Have I ever seen anyone who has recovered from narcissist abuse? So let me just scroll down. Let me see if I can find your email, Miss Lisa. I just looked at it right before I turned on my camera, and I wanted to address that. But I have like 8 million emails in here. I just had your email, and so I apologize, but I'm going to answer that question personally and professionally at the same time. Let me see if I can find it on this one. Let's see. I have a lot of them that are connected with each other. Okay, so let me just answer the question, Ms. Lisa. You asked the question whether or not I have ever seen anyone recover from narcissist abuse. Majority of the coaches that you see on YouTube are coaches that have experienced narcissist abuse and have recovered from it. They've taken their pain and they turned it around to help other people recover from, this tragedy. I myself also am a person that has survived narcissist abuse, and together with my personal experience, what I've observed within my environment, what I've observed in a clinical setting as a professional and a trauma professional, and speaking to people, I take that knowledge and I put it together to present to you to help other people that are in situations like this. So Ms. Lisa, I too am a survivor of narcissist abuse, over 22 years and 18 years in which I actually lived with a malignant, somatic, cerebral, what's another word? And it's not being harsh, I'm just giving you the definitions that we have been learning on the YouTube channel. But a malignant, somatic, and cerebral covert narcissist. And I too am a survivor. Is it possible that we can recover? Absolutely. I have recovered with the support of family and friends. I've also an excellent mentor that I've worked with for a long, long time before I even started making videos. But while I was helping other people, and I got the idea, like, wow, as so many people, when you become aware of something, as so many people that have suffered at the hands of a perpetrator, especially a narcissist, and is becoming very prevalent. That's the word I'm looking for. Many of the people that come into session with me, many people that I run into, many people that email me are also survivors of or are in narcissistic narcissist abuse relationship. So Ms. Lisa, here's some hope. When you look at other videos, a lot of those people are survivors as well. What you're going through is not uncommon for people that come out of abusive situation in general. But what you're feeling, the feelings of hopelessness, or that hopeless look in your face, that is a symptom of a residual of that. Now, one of the things is that when people come out of traumatic events like this, you're changed forever. You are. And when I say changed forever, you can take that as a positive, and we can stay victims, and woe is me. We can stay victims, or we can begin to talk to other people that need to come out of, or hear your experience from coming out of those situations. Forever you are changed. You know, your brain, the chemicals in your brain have changed, your experiences have changed, your senses have changed. Anytime someone has been traumatized, you know, when you're traumatized, all of your senses are open all at one time. And it's an experience that your body feels, your cellular structure has memories, your brain has unconscious and conscious memory, you have triggers, you know, you are more sensitive to people's tones, facial expressions, body movements, things people say, keywords that trigger you. And when you're dealing with narcissists are all very similar. Different people, different situation, but everything that we talk about, everything is very similar. There's a gentleman by the name of H.G. Tudor who is a narcissist, and he says that he's a sociopath narcissist that talks about the life of a narcissist, the things that they think. And he gave some terminology which I didn't think I used to say it all the time, but I didn't say it and define it the way he defined it, which you have the low level, mid-level, and elite narcissists. I also was looking at, you know, to each his own in your belief system. You know, I'm not here to convert you or to convince you of what religious belief or spiritual belief you should have. It just so happened that I was looking over the binding techniques that are used by narcissists. When I was looking at the binding techniques, you know, to bind you to them, to hoover, to love bomb you, to bind you, to hunt your soul and bind you to them, is also a technique that is used in the Wiccan religion belief. One of their initiations is the binding, the initiation into the occult, into the coven, is binding, to bind you to the coven, against the group. Make sure that I say it correctly, but the binding, narcissists bind you. He also mentioned that the elite, which is, they go through phases, the low level, the mid level, and then the elite. Low level and mid levels usually respond and react out of instinct. So a lot of things that they do out of instinct. And this is in the process in which they're conditioning you, but they're learning you just like you're learning them, if you think about it. The elite are those that are very comfortable. The lower and the mid are the ones that are usually still, they don't know how to control themselves. They don't have temperance. They fly into rages, but the elite is more conditioned because we have taught them. They have learned through all the souls that they have hunted, all the people that they have hunted. They have learned behavior. It's that learned behavior, that classical conditioning that we talked about in one of the videos. They have conditioned you, you have conditioned them, and everything that they learn from their victims, they just take it to another victim. They mimic emotions. They do not have the capacity to feel empathy or emotions. The emotions that they feel is usually rage, jealousy, that people are not giving them the attention and you're getting the attention. Everything that's a negative emotion is the emotion that they feel, but it's all about what they want and how they see it. They don't have the capacity to feel love. They don't have feelings like that. They cannot feel empathy like that. And so the elite is more well-versed and is good at manipulation, hoovering, and one of the language that he uses is that they have mastered the dark art of seduction. Think about it. That's how they get you. They seduce you. But they have mastered the dark art of seduction, and they have mastered the art, so they're mastering the art of narcissism. It's a whole world. But you can see how insidious and how dark this is, that they practice on people to perfect their craft. He called it a craft. To perfect their craft, the dark art of seduction. And it requires all your emotion. You actually almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Give up your soul for this person. Every fiber of your body falls in love. That's what they're doing. They're trying to condition you. The term conditioning means a process of changing behavior by rewarding or punishing a subject each time an action is performed. Remember the trauma bonds? You know, remember that's how they bond you to them. That's how they bind you to them, is by conditioning you by the use of trauma bonds. They will, you know, use any kind of tactics, punishment, sleep deprivation, physical attacks, locking you in rooms, raping you, strangling you, boarding you up in rooms, threatening to beat your children or harm your children, your pets, tearing up or breaking personal items, kicking you out of a car, threatening to beat you in a field. And I'm just giving you real life experiences. These are real experiences by real people, that they have been traumatized. You know, your fear, that they use fear tactics to invoke the fear to cause you to comply to what it is they're requesting, whether it's a sexual tryst, whether it's for you to agree to something that they want you to agree to, whether it's for you to deny that you, for example, if a man has been caught cheating, or if a woman has been caught cheating, you have the evidence, you see it, you talk to the person, they will actually torment you to force you to deny that ever happened. Gaslighting. But the term conditioning is a process of changing behavior by rewarding or punishing a subject each time an action is performed. Like I said, the trauma bonding. So forever a person is changed when you've been through a traumatic event, whether you've been in a car accident, you know, you don't have amnesia unless the trauma was so severe that your mind blocked it out and you have amnesia, or if you dissociate or depersonalize. You know, the brain is there to protect you from the trauma. It's like going into having a major accident. In a major accident, the body, you can die of shock as opposed to the injury that you sustained. So they try to keep the body from going into shock so they can treat the injury. Well, even if you have a baby, you know, the body remembers. There have been archaeological digs and even autopsies where the person that's doing the is it research, or you know, they're checking the body, they can tell whether a person has had a baby. So forever your life has changed with events that have happened. Can you recover from that? You definitely can. The first thing you have to do is understand that you, at this particular time, each person is in a different phase of recovery. Some people are not even in the recovery process yet, and we talked about the 7 stages of grief, and I just wanted to go back over that. You know, everybody is in different stages of recovery, or even in realization. Some people, if you're watching these videos and you're starting to find that some of these things are very familiar to you, you know, because you haven't had the information. The very first thing that I found in the recovery, first of all, you're addicted to the abuser. They purposely made sure that you were addicted to them. And let's look at the term addiction. Let me go to that first. The term addiction derived from a Latin term, and this is from helpguide.org from Harvard, how addiction hijacks the brain. And who wrote this? Let's see who wrote this. This is Trust Guide in Mental and Emotional Health. Let's see who wrote it. Make sure I give them proper credit. It doesn't say who wrote it. However, the word addiction is derived from the Latin term for enslaved or bound to. Remember we were just talking about the binding process, the ritualistic or the initiation process of binding, the narcissist binding or conditioning you, and now we're talking about addiction, which is another, the Latin term for enslaved or bound to. You become bound to a person. And this one we're talking about addiction, so it could be sex addiction, it could be drug addiction, alcohol addiction, it could be gambling addiction, food addiction, you know, but the same receptors in the brain that causes the addiction to substances also causes you the addiction to a person, especially if the person is working very hard to cause you to be bound, enslaved, or addicted to them. They're doing it to get you addicted or bound to them. And remember, you are a source of supply. And I think H.G. Tudor explained it very eloquently when he said he calls it fuel. And so each source of supply provides some type of fuel. When you get angry, when you look and run behind them for answers, when you want closure, when you cry, your pain is fuel. You are that one source of supply, because there are many sources of supply, but you may be the main source of supply, you be the secondary source of supply, but they're going to have some source of supply in which they draw fuel. And whatever energy you give them, whatever you release, is what they get high off of. It's like them getting high off of drugs and alcohol themselves, but they get a high off of that. That stimulates them. And usually when you're unable to provide that high anymore, they go seek another high. And let me explain the addiction to you. And that's both part on the person that's addicted to the abuser, the narcissist, and the narcissist themselves. So let's see. It talks about addiction experts talk about the powerful influence on the brain that manifests in 3 distinct ways: craving for the object of addiction, loss of control over its use, and continuing involvement with it despite adverse consequences. So I want you to think about this as a relationship with the narcissist as well. Okay, so we replace the drug and alcohol, and we'll put narcissist in there. And I'll move the terminology around to fit the conversation. So let's see. Nobody starts out intending to develop an addiction, but people get caught in its snare. Consider the latest government statistic. Okay, so 23 million Americans, almost 1 in 10, are addicted to alcohol and drugs. More than 2/3 people addicted to the abuse of alcohol. And top 3 drugs causing addiction is marijuana, opiate, narcotic, pain reliever, and cocaine. Okay, so let's go down and talk about the pleasure sensors. So the brain registers all pleasures in the same way. So if that narcissist is one that, and is not all narcissists, but if this is a narcissist, somatic, remember the somatic is one that is greatly invested in his or her appearance. They're sexually motivated. A lot of them are sexually good at what they do. They're well versed. Also, what else? Appearance, material possessions, that grandiose, representation of wealth and monetary gain, positions. But so the brain registers all pleasures the same way. So let's look at that as like one of the somatic ones. Whether it originates with psychoactive drugs, a monetary reward, a sexual encounter, or a satisfying meal. In the brain, pleasure has a distinct signature, the release of neurotransmitter called dopamine. In the nucleus, okay, some of that is just really a lot of words, so I'm just going to keep it very simple. Okay, so let's see. So all drugs of abuse, from nicotine to heroin, cause a particularly powerful surge of dopamine. To include the narcissist, they have the capability of causing that powerful surge of dopamine. It's that pleasure sensor. Remember, oxytocin is the chemical that causes the bonding. Let's see. Likelihood that the use of the drug or participation in a reward activity will lead to addiction. Remember, we were just talking about the conditioning. And remember, we were talking about the conditioning and how the narcissist binds you to him, or her. So let's look. There's something else I wanted to speak of. Okay, so over time, the brain adapts in a way that actually makes the sought-after substance or activity less pleasurable. In nature, rewards usually come only with time and effort. Addictive drugs and behaviors provide a shortcut, flooding the brain with dopamine and other neurotransmitters. Our brains do not have an easy way to withstand that onslaught. So think about what that narcissist is doing to your brain. What is happening with your brain? Especially when they're back and forth doing the trauma bonds, back and forth when it comes to the conditioning. This is what's going on in your brain. That's why it makes it so hard to leave, that narcissist, because you are bound, enslaved, addicted, conditioned to this individual. Your brain is operating the same way it would as if you were taking cocaine or heroin. Let's see. So as a result of these adaptations, your brain is adapting because it needs more and more and more of whatever that substance is, whether it's that narc or this drug. Dopamine has less impact on the brain's reward center. People who develop an addiction typically find that in time they desire substance no longer that desired substance no longer gives them as much pleasure. So think about it for a minute. When you are no longer a good supply for that narcissist, it no longer gives them that pleasure. So they're having to go look for new supply to provide them with that fuel to increase that dopamine, that pleasure in their brain. It's not a matter of love. So when you question whether or not they've fallen in love with the new supply, absolutely not. They're providing them with a source of fuel that's causing them the dopamines to give them that pleasurable feeling, that pleasurable content feeling. It's not about love. They have to take more of its obtain. They have to take more to obtain that same dopamine high because their brains have adapted an effect known as tolerance. So at this point, compulsion takes over. The pleasure associated with an addictive drug or behavior, the trauma bonds, the conditioning, the conditioning, the trauma bonds, the conditioning, the bonding, the binding, that behavior subsides, and yet the memory of the desired effect and the need to recreate it, the wanting persists. It is as though the normal machinery of motivation is no longer functioning. So think about it. Every time that narcissist disappears, every time that narcissist gives you the silent treatment or ghosts you or goes no contact with you, your dopamine levels go down and you begin to crave that narcissist. Even though they may be they may be abusive, they may be harsh, the things that they say may wound you deeply. You crave that affection that they gave you. You crave that sex that may have satisfied you. You crave those words of confirmation. You're craving those nice words that they give you. Yet they are so insidious. They have no empathy. They have no capability of loving you. So let's look at here. Some of these words are really, really big, so I wanted to keep it really, really simple. So cravings contribute not only to addiction, but to relapse after a hard-won sobriety. So going through the withdrawal symptoms with a narcissist takes time. Ms. Lisa, it takes time. You have to recover. First of all, you recognize that you were there. Now you recognize what your body is going through. Your body is going through a withdrawal symptoms. And sometimes it takes a long time to get that out of your system. Narcotics, when people that have been addicted to drugs, heavy drug users also have physiological effects or there are physiological effects or residuals from hard drug abuse. Some people who have sniffed cocaine for many years have lost the cartridge inside of their nostrils. Some of them have had problems with their kidneys, liver damage, smoking, lung damage. Even after they stop smoking, there is some residual damage that may have occurred. The immune system has been broken down. The immune system is not as high functioning as it was before it's broken down. But when you go through trauma like this, your immune system is affected too. Remember, your adrenaline is pumping at all times, and it's pumping so hard, and if it doesn't stop, it breaks down your internal organs. It breaks down your immune system. So there are some after effects. You become very sensitive, to your surrounding. You become to a point where you don't trust relationships anymore. You don't trust what people say. You don't even trust your own self. So the recovery process is oftentimes long and hard. Let's see here. Let's look around. Let's see what else I wanted to. So I wanted to go back to the stages of grief. First of all, if you're watching the videos, you have now come to an understanding that something is not right. Something is wrong. Something's not right, and you've begun a research process. What is this that I'm feeling? And you may have come across the video by accident, but something is not right. Then when you get a terminology for it, you're like, I never knew that's what it was. So then the process of the shock and denial, and everybody doesn't go through the 7 stages of grief. There's 5 stages, 7 stages. I like using the 7-1 because I like to go through even the recovery process. But remember, the shock and denial that I can't believe I've spent all this time with this individual and they never loved me. You mean they never had any feelings? I mean, they acted like they cared in the very beginning. Remember, in the very beginning, it was their representative that you met, and you supplied them with fuel. You were the supply. You supplied them with some type of fuel. And once they've got tired and bored with you, they just moved on to their next source of supply, their next victim, to drain them. Trust you me, they get better and better with time. When I say better and better with time, they get better and better with their craft. They get better and better with their skills. They get better and better with this black art of seduction. They get better and better with time. So just imagine that what happened to you, the next person is even worse. So it's really good that you're out of the relationship. It's good that you have been discarded. It's good that you have discarded. But I know it's a very painful thing because you're going through the withdrawal process. So shock and denial, sometimes that can be numbing. Sometimes you go through a lot of shock. You're trying to figure out who is this person with now? Are they treating them better than me? How is it possible that you never loved me? I just want to hear your voice. I just want to know that you cared. They didn't care. They couldn't care. You served a purpose, just like everyone else in their life serves a purpose. Even their parents, people that they have to find a purpose in people. They never have well-meaning, good relationships with anybody. They have problems at the job. They're conflicted individuals. They're always arguing. They're never wrong. They're gonna argue with you. They're always smarter than you. They're always more educated than you, and can't prove that they are more educated than you. Believe you me, I have narcissists watching these videos right now, and you have to be careful because some of you that are watching these videos, when they find out that you're watching the videos, they'll start using the terminology that they're learning. They're learning terminology, so they'll use that terminology and reverse it on you, make you look like the narcissist or make you look like you're victimizing them. They are always the victim. They're always trying to find a way to pay you back. They're always trying to find a way to punish you for not being able to fill them with fuel. Something that you had is what they wanted. Something that you had. And when you turn, or when you come to a realization of who they really are, they then begin to punish you as they look for new sources of supply. And you have to be prepared because they also like smear campaigning. That means running your name through the mud. They love to do that. And like I said, be careful because those of you that are watching the videos, they'll start using the terminology they're using and they'll use it against you to make you seem like you are the one that's victimizing them because they're always the victim. So the shock and denial of realizing this person never had the capacity to love you or your children, and it's hard to register in your mind that I've wasted so much time with this individual. I've wasted my life. I've had children. I did this. And then they walk away and it's like you lost everything because you invested too much of your emotions in another human being. A human being cannot fulfill or totally fulfill you. It's good to have good relationships, but even in good relationship and good friendships, you still have to find yourself. You never let anybody, you set boundaries in your life. And once again, let's go back to the degree. I can keep going on and on because I love to encourage. So then you have the pain and the guilt, the pain of the discard, the pain and the guilt, of even having to have gotten into a relationship. How did this happen to me? I hold this position. I'm an elite in this position, and I hold that. I'm a doctor, nurse, politician, lawyer, senator, judge, therapist, pastor, preacher, first lady, anything of the elite class, and maybe not, but a lot of people look at it like, I can't believe that this happened to me. I can't believe that I got into a position. I'm totally ashamed. I'm embarrassed. I don't want anybody to know because I should have been able to recognize this. I should have been. And some of the people that work in this field, some of your victim advocates, some of your domestic violence counselors, therapists, those people that work in the field are some of the people that go through it and sometimes don't know how to come out of it themselves. I happen to be one of those people at one point in time. I would help everybody else. I would try to find a way to save them them because I had no way or didn't know how to save myself, until I finally came to a recognition that I refused to accept this anymore, and I did the discard. But of course, the narcissist turned it around and made it seem like they did the discard. But you have to be prepared for that, and you have to stop putting yourself in a position where you argue back and forth. You arguing back and forth as to who did the discard or who left and who didn't left, and you did this, and it really is just, all it does is just you remember on Silence of the Lamb, you remember every time he talked to Clarice, he tried to stimulate her emotions, but the one thing he said every time he talked to her, he'd always go. That's exactly what you're doing with the narcissist. Every time you feed him or feed her with emotions, they get a high. Think about that for a minute. You know, they get a high off of your emotion. They get a high off of your anger. As long as they know they have stimulated you, they get a high off. That's what they look for. You're fueling them. So you arguing with them, or you wanting closure, or you wanting to show them, see, I can do it without you. All you're doing is feeding into what they want. They don't care. You know, and it's a hard thing to say. It's a sad thing to say, especially if you invested so much time and have children by a narcissist. They don't care. All they care about is themselves. So the pain, let me tell you, the pain can be excruciating. The pain is like no other pain you've ever experienced before. The emotional pain of the discard, just being dropped, you know, with no closure, you know, and then for the narc to keep coming back and forth to play with your emotions, to see where you are and what you're feeling. You know, the game is fun to them. It feels good to be filled with that fuel that you're giving, that energy that you're giving out. And so the thing is that when you're dealing with them, my greatest advice to you, cut them off altogether. Cut them off and have nothing else to do with them, period. If you have children, it's a little more complicated. Do know that a narc, you know, you have good intentions, and the court orders may say one thing, and you want to make sure that you co-parent. You know this one thing: narcissists do not co-parent. Narcissists do not co-parent. Even the child serves a purpose in their life. The child serves a purpose to feed them fuel, because the child is even a source of supply, and a child is innocent and usually loves their parent, and so they're getting a certain type of fuel from that child, that small or adult narcissist supply, but they don't have the capacity to feel like other people feel. And so that child serves a purpose. And the sad thing is that the court systems are not set up to recognize this. Hopefully we will bring awareness into the court system at how damaging narcissists can be even to their own children, because the children serve a supply, you know, but it's hard to prove. So hopefully, you know, as a community of those that are surviving narcissist abuse, with your experiences, with you opening your mouth and starting to tell about your experiences, even your court experiences, you know, we can get this into the court system to bring awareness of this insidious type of abuse that may not be physical abuse, but is severe emotional and psychological abuse, even for the children. So do know that, you know, I don't have answers for you when it comes to the court systems, you know, because there are no rules, you know, that here in the state of Washington, I know there is psychological abuse, abandonment, and neglect. But in detail about what the narcissists do, it doesn't have anything in detail. So it's good to educate lawyers and judges about what is going on. We have to make them aware. Awareness is the first thing that we have to do. So pain and guilt, the anger and the bargaining, you know, now you're angry with the narcissist because you realize that you have been a game. You have been a pawn or a chess piece in their game of chess that you were not willing to play. You were unaware that you were in a chess game. You were unaware that their life consists of a game with people's lives and people's souls and people's emotions. And you bargain, you know, if I can just be friends with him or her, you know, if I can just, you know, communicate from time to time. Once again, I say cut it off. You know, with the children, remember there's no such thing as co-parenting, but when you're dealing with a narcissist and when it comes to children, take your emotions out and stay logical, stay, you know, structured, stay logical, and do not, when you talk to them, do not open up to just have a common conversation with them. Keep it focused on the children. What time you come to pick up the child, make a list of what you may need, you know, Do not involve your emotion. Do not ask them how they're doing. Do not ask about their life, their job, or anything. Do not open yourself up to have a conversation, because it's almost like they are checking to see where your energy and your soul is at, your emotions is at. And that's the problem. We give too much of our soul in our conversation, our emotions in our conversation. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for another way to hoover you, or an open opportunity, to open door to hoover you again, just to start this all over again. Cut them off. If you don't have any children, cut them off. Stop talking to them. Let them go, and start going through your grief and loss process. Go through that emotional pain. It's better to go through the emotional pain of the loss than to continue going through the psychological and the emotional abuse that you go through with a narcissist. They never, ever, ever change. They won't change. They don't have the capacity to do so. They won't change. And they have no need to change. They feel that there is no need to change. For what? There's nothing wrong with them. There's something wrong with you. It's all your fault. But I want you to know, none of that is your fault. Any of that is your fault. You're going to go through depression, reflection, and loneliness. The one thing that I really need you to do is stop reflecting. You play it over in your head over and over and over. You start playing certain situations over, and that's why they did that. And oh my gosh, then you start looking at their Facebook. Then you start looking to see who they're with. Then but you keep playing this over and over and over in your head. And the more you play it over and over in your head, the more you're opening yourself up for wounds. The more you're opening yourself up for anxiety, the more depressed that you're getting. At nights you can't sleep, you can't eat, your stomach hurts. You're starting to have physical symptoms of the discard. You're having physical symptoms, in your body. Your stomach hurts, your head hurts, you're sleepy, you're fatigued, you can't find any happiness. But I promise you, it's going to change if you go through the process of recovery. Just like any drug addict, a drug addict has to first of all admit that they have a problem. A person that's coming out of a narcissist abusive situation has to first acknowledge you were duped, you were played, we were played, and these are insidious hunters, soul hunters. And you have to understand, you're not crazy. It was never your fault. This is how they are. There's nothing that you did. It doesn't matter what you do, you'll never be good enough. Nothing that you ever do is good enough for a narcissist, ever. Nothing that you ever do. It doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter how you look, doesn't matter how much weight you gain, how much weight you lose, doesn't matter if you clean up, if you don't clean up, how good the sex is, how bad the sex is, if you swing off the chandeliers, if you do a back bend and touch your Achilles tendons. I think that's in the back, right? It doesn't matter what you do. You get Botox, you get your face lift, you pull your face back where your eyebrows are sitting in the middle of your head. It doesn't matter what you do. Breasts as big as the room. It doesn't matter what you do. You served a purpose, and there's nothing you can do to ever please that narcissist. They're not pleased with themselves. They are miserable, angry, bitter people, and there's nothing you can do to ever bring them happiness. There's nothing you can you can throw something in a bottomless pit all you want to. It'll never fill up. The pit will never fill up. There's nothing you can do to ever satisfy them. The best advice that I can give you is get out, go, run. Let's see. So hopefully I covered that. Hopefully I encouraged somebody. Miss Lisa, hopefully I encourage you. I really wanted to address that because I understand where you are. Each and every person's experience is different. But the pain of a discard, a pain of realizing, how another person has used you so recklessly, have taken a person's soul and their emotions and have abused it, when most of us really just want a good relationship. We want to be loved. We want to feel secure. We want to know that the other person is reciprocating those feelings. They don't have the capacity to do that. And sometimes, the recovery process is a long and hard process. Can you get over it? You sure can. I did. And so are many other coaches that you see online. It's always a process, though, especially if you have children by the narcissist. Now you have to be more aware. Do we think the same as everybody else that has never been through it? Absolutely not, because you've been traumatized in a way that nobody understands. You've been traumatized in a way that has been held secret and people didn't believe you. So just making people believe you that it actually happened, to convince people that, especially if they were a covert narcissist, where they were very charming, people loved them, they were funny, they'll give the shirt off of their back. They'll give the last dime in their pocket. They'll buy you food. Anything. Just charming, sweet people. Just fun to be around, those are the worst ones. Those are the most devious, almost evil ones. And then the hardest thing for the victim is having to prove that you actually were abused, having to prove yourself. Another question that was asked before is about friends. If you two had mutual friends, first of all, if it's a mutual friend that were friends with them, it's best just to let those friends go. Unless you guys had your own relationships and they realize how that person was, they're not, they're not the type that blame you. Those neutral friends that know how the person is. There are some friends that are like, I know that's how the person is. I know you're not lying. I know you're not lying, and they're supportive. Then that's fine. But a lot of mutual friends, they got these friends, and you guys became friends, so their loyalty lies to them. It's best to leave those alone. Go find your own friends. Sometimes family will side with the person, especially close family, because that's their loved one. Yeah, I know this person is like that, but what can I do? They're still family. And so you'll get pushed out the side quicker than they'll get pushed out the side. But it's not like they don't know, and sometimes they're pushed off onto you so that you can deal with the problem, and we'll be the bystanders. But once you give up the problem, they still have to deal with the problem. But a lot of them, have loyalty toward the family members, so you have to make a decision. If the family members, the members of the family or friends are neutral and they're not judgmental, they don't, then that's one thing. But a lot of friends, you just have to let them go and find your own friends. So hopefully this has helped you. I really appreciate you guys, chiming in, taking time out of your busy day to go look at my YouTube channel and the videos that I post. Once again, please email me, Dr. Carmen Bryant, DrCarmenBryant@outlook.com. Feel free to ask me any question, to talk about anything. Miss Lisa, I got it. You want me to talk about the narc abuse by proxy? We're going to look that up so I can give definitions of what that is as well, so we can talk about that, or we can discuss that. Once again, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is Dr. Carmen Bryant with a T, Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. And I also have a professional Facebook page, which is Psychological Health Consultants and Services. For those of you that are still in the situation, do know that the narcissist, if they know that you're watching the videos, that they're probably going to watch the videos too. They're always going to have something ahead of you. They're always going to try to be ahead of you. So be prepared when you start noticing familiar language that sounds very familiar to the videos, familiar language that they didn't have at first, that lets you know that they've been watching the videos. And be prepared that they'll use that language against you. They'll try to make you look like the narcissist, or make you look like you're the abuser, because they're always the victims. They're never ever wrong, and they're smarter than the average person, and they're probably more educated than you are, but can't prove it. So just be prepared, okay? And so I'm just giving you a heads up. So those of you that are watching, you don't want anyone to know, just go and delete your cookies. Go delete, the last thing that you viewed, so they can't go check behind you. Those of you that are in domestic violence situation and you need help, if you are in the Pierce County or King County area, you can always contact the YWCA, and there are advocates, domestic violence advocates that are standing by to assist you. You can also call, let's look at this for a minute, okay? And I'm going to give out a number. I haven't given out numbers, but I'm going to give you this number. If you find yourself in a domestic violence situation, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. Once again, that National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. It's better to leave your material stuff behind than to lose your life in a domestic violence situation, especially if you have a malignant, covert, sociopath, psychopathic narcissist that you're with. They will try to pay you back, threaten to kill you, and it's better to get help and get out of your situation and go to a shelter. The advocates are trained to help you. Once again, go on my Facebook page, which is Psychological Health Consultants and Services. You can email me, Dr. Carmen Bryant, DrCarmenBryant@outlook.com. It's so long. And you can go, I have an Instagram, which is Psychological Health Consultants I think, and services. Everything is underscore to divide the words. But you can go to my YouTube channel, Dr. Carmen Bryant, Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. Please subscribe and hit the bell so that you can be alerted whenever I post a new video. Once again, I thank you guys. Stay tuned because I am a clinician. I work in an office, and so I do have clients that I provide mental health services to. But I am developing my coaching program. I'm trying to put that all together with my coaching program. Hopefully, I can begin to advertise the coaching services that I provide as of January of 2019, upcoming January. Hopefully, I have everything intact for you because I would like to provide you the most professional services even though as a coach, I cannot provide mental health services outside of the boundaries of Washington State, but I can provide coaching services, which does not include mental health services. If I think this is a case in which you more likely will benefit from mental health services, then I will recommend that. But I'll set it all up and I will make sure that I give you the information when I have it. I do have a book coming out, hopefully before the end of this year. So I have a book that's with the editor right now. It is more Christian based from a professional and Christian point of view, and it also has many stories in there in reference to the different examples or experiences from women that have been through narcissist abuse and some of the things that have been said, some of the things that have happened to them and their children, so that you don't feel like you're the only one. That'll give you the aha, like I'm not the only one, and you don't have to live in secret and shame. Please share the video with someone. You never know who you're going to help. Please share the video with someone, even if you're not watching the video. Send the video out and let somebody else see it. You never know who you're going to help. You never know who's watching the video, and I commend you guys, all of you that have been through it. I commend you for watching the videos. You're beginning to learn. You feel yourself strengthened, and trust me, it's a long, hard process, just like drug addictions, to recover from something like that. Will you be changed for the rest of your life? You definitely will. But will you make it out of there? Oh, you definitely will. I've been changed for the rest of my life. That's why I can sit and talk to you about it. Do I have happiness? Do I have peace? And do I have joy? Absolutely. I love what I do, and I love the fact that I'm helping people. And you too can share your story to help people. But don't help people while you're still in the process of the recovery, because then you may trigger people because you're speaking from a place of hurt. Speak from a place of recovery. Speak from a place of how you got out of the situation. Somebody needs to know they're listening to you. Once again, thank you guys. And as my friend always says, go and be great.